But let's check in on this video that Reza did where he's decided he's going to try to brainwash us via fictional television because that's the only way his made-up universe of peaceful Muslims exists in fiction. Let's start with a giant lie out of the gate.
You are, according to the FBI, more likely to die as the result of faulty furniture than by an Islamic terrorist. So you should really be scared of your lazy boy.
Okay, stop. That is true, sir. Furniture, technically, is more dangerous than a Muslim terrorist attack when you run the numbers of the 420 million people in America or wherever your country is. Yes, it's statistically small. It's very unlikely I'll be raped, but I'm still against rape. I'm not a fan of MS-13, but the odds of them attacking me in my suburban home are next to nothing. You don't have to be specifically personally under duress to be justified in being concerned about this scourge that is radical extremism. 1 in 4 Muslims in America between the ages of 18 and 25 think suicide bombing is sometimes or often justified. That's real high. Young people, millennials, and even lots of adults don't understand the concept of disproportional, okay? When you look at terror attacks, there's this many Sikh attacks, there's this many right-wing attacks. Then there's the Muslim ones. Then there's the Hindu ones. Then there's the Armenian ones. Do you understand? Your group seems to be overrepresented in terrorism. Not all Muslims are terrorists, but pretty much all terrorists are Muslim, which is why when you see something like a maniac driving through Times Square, you go, what was his first name? What was his first name? What was his first name? It's not Muhammad. Okay, whatever. It's not indicative of a pattern. And you guys are forming a pattern. And the 1 in 4, by the way, in America is pretty much as good as it gets. Go to Pakistan, Jordan, go to Indonesia, go to any other Muslim country. And as Ben Shapiro points out in his brilliant video, which I must have sent to 1 million people, The Myth of the Peaceful Muslim Minority, it gets up into the 60s, 70s, 80s when you include those other countries. So we have the most tolerant Muslims, and the numbers are still pretty bad. So we are going to let a few 100 million bad apples spoil the whole bunch, Reza. But let's continue with your blatant lies.
Allahu Akbar, and then blow himself up.
Yeah, that never happens.
And then there was like the good Muslim. So you have that great movie Body of Lies. You're like, oh, look, it's a Muslim guy who's good. He's like with the CIA. No, he's dead. Like 3 minutes into the movie.
Stop.
He's done.
Stop. No one kills more Muslims than Muslims, okay? So that does represent the truth. And if anything, you want to criticize America? I think we treat our Muslim allies terribly. The guy who discovered Osama bin Laden, the doctor who went in there and swabbed so we had the DNA test perfectly, we abandoned him after. We let him blow up, basically. I think he's in jail now, but that's the same up there in Pakistan. So, yeah, again, you haven't said anything reasonable yet. But let's keep going. And one other thing, by the way, I think TV has brainwashed a lot of people into thinking that the racial demographics of America are different than what they are. America's like 75% white. It's about 14% black. The rest is Hispanic, except for 5% that is reserved for everyone else. Hawaiians, Native Americans, Muslims, Iranians, Asians, Chinese, they're all stuffed in that tiny 5%. Even Jews are barely 3%. So this idea that, hey, how come I turn on the TV and I don't see me? Well, out of 100 people, you should maybe see 1 Muslim. Okay? Go ahead.
In the 1980s, being Muslim in America was like being Martian. I grew up
Horse shit alert.
Mexican
Stop again.
community.
Stop. Now, this is rewriting history, if I've ever seen it. Iran, before the revolution in 1979, was about as non-Muslim as you can get. It was bacon and booze central. Women wore mini skirts. Women hung out in chemistry labs. They listened to rock and roll. Women took boxing. They didn't need a Wally to tell them whether they could drive or go to the hospital, as they do now. So these so-called Iranian Muslims are Persians, okay? And the reason that they're in America is because Muslims fucked up Iran and ruined the country. She would have had to wear a hijab if she was back in her home country. But we took them in. We took them in. Guess what? You're welcome. How about some gratitude? These Muslims escape a country that they just ruined, and they go, when we got to America, not a lot of people looked like us. Oh, sorry. When I escaped from jail, I was the only one wearing an orange jumpsuit. Everyone else had nice clothes. I wanted to have a romp hymn. Go ahead.
So I just told everybody I was Mexican.
Oh,
I didn't
poor
really
thing,
know
he was
that
a
much
minority.
Spanish. I knew like orale, and I just like would throw that out every once in a while. Orale, and people would be like, "Oh, you're obviously Mexican."
Actually, you know what he's doing right now?
It's very important.
Could you pause it here? He is assimilating very well. He's assimilating into the Western whiny liberal. He's actually done a great job. That chord's annoying me. He's done a great job of assimilating into American culture. He's just another whiny liberal playing the victim. When I immigrated to Canada, I had a gay accent. I said, hello, everyone. Oh, I'm awfully chuffed to be, because my parents lived in a rich area in England. Poof, poof, poof. Had the crap pounded out of me until I was like, hey, how's it going? Hey, Maggie Longclaws is pregnant. What are you guys doing? You grabbing a 2-4? The thought of complaining about that is unfathomable. Of course I was a minority. I came from a country thousands of miles away. That's what happens when you go to a place you're not from. Anyway, go ahead. Let's hear more about this poor baby with different hair.
Thing on the down low as much as possible. I was longing for a way to express myself spiritually. And so I started reading about Islam. I started reading the Quran.
Can you pause it again? Sorry. This has happened to the Sarnav brothers. This happened to the Jamaican who was part of the London bombing. This has happened to that Jamaican, the black kid in Ottawa I was talking about in another video. We keep getting these guys become more Islamic than their parents. And I believe it's these Marxist teachers. They sit there and they say, your country sucks, America sucks, America sucks. The parents don't think that. You look at pictures of this guy's dad. He's got mutton chops and bell bottoms, and he's like, I am loving rock and roll. Let's party down. This is my kind of place, guys. Hey, you guys want to slam dance? Oh, it hasn't been invented yet? Okay, I'll wait. But then the kids, they want to rebel, and then they end up listening to their Marxist teachers, and they go, hey, I talked to my uncle back in Lahore, which is Urdu for the whore, and I learned that, yeah, they're right, we are evil. And there's a thing you can join called jihad, where you fight back against this evil empire I've been learning about in school. So we radicalized this little turd. Good work, teachers, you fat, lazy pigs. Go ahead.
I realized this is what I already believe. I just didn't know there was a word for it.
Yeah, it's called annoying.
Reza Aslan.
Reza Aslan.
Reza Aslan. Reza, let me start with you.
Interesting thing to choose for your
me
montage, your fucking
when I'm
name.
being interviewed is to tamp down my astonishment.
The question at the bottom of the screen that everyone is looking at. Does Islam promote violence?
The thing that's mostly...
Pause. I love how the left is so sure of themselves that all they have to do is present our side and just say, can you fucking believe I was even asked that? Now, they don't have to answer it. They just have to show that our brains dared consider this. Now, I've been through the Quran with Robert Spencer, did a video on at least 10 examples where the Quran advocates for violence. It was written by a warlord who was on a death march, okay? It was basically written by Genghis Khan. Yeah, it's going to be a violent book. And I know the Old Testament is violent too. We have a 2.0. We updated ours, okay? And we took out the mean parts. Your mean parts are your whole book. And as Robert Spencer points out, by the way, you just flip through it and put your finger down and you'll find violence. So before you roll your eyes at Don Lemon, the Cadbury egg, who's super liberal, by the way, why don't you prove that Islam isn't inherently violent? And good luck to you, by the way. Go ahead, Reza.
Going through my mind is calm down, calm down.
The justice
just pause here.
Muslim countries.
Who the fuck are you? God? Someone asks you a question and you have to tell yourself to calm down because you're so offended by that question. Muslim women are treated worse than Christian women overall. And yes, let's pour the whole billion in there. And I don't think you'll find anywhere more sexist than Muslims. In fact, their judicial system, Sharia, is based on sexism. Or, sorry, at least sexism is a central spine of the whole thing. Our Magna Carta doesn't talk about beating women if they don't fuck you. Sharia law does. It makes their testimony half. You put them in garbage bags, for fuck's sakes. Don't tell me that it's respectful to be in a burqa. It's black polyester in the Middle East. Polyester's plastic. They're in a garbage bag. I'm not exaggerating. It's a plastic bag. Sorry, that's not empowering. No matter what Linda Sarsour tells you, hiding your face, hiding your hair from God is not empowering. It's subjugation. And here's what he's going to do now, by the way. You just saw that book, Zealot. He wrote a book about Jesus called Zealot. And can you believe people thought he was criticizing Jesus and he was a Muslim who might have an axe to grind when it comes to Jesus Christ? How dare they? I mean, the gall of this guy. And this is him explaining why he's quitting media and interviews, because people are so rude.
To be clear, I am a scholar of religions with 4 degrees, including one in the New Testament and fluency in biblical Greek.
The Fox News video, that one really touched a nerve. I woke up the next day and realized I had 10,000 new followers. I mean,
Who were
everybody was
Muslims?
talking about it.
Who are Muslims that appreciated your
I got a
bias,
lot of
by the way,
positive comments
against
from
Jesus
people,
Christ?
Muslims who were saying, you know, for the first time, okay, now we have proof of how we are being dealt with all the time. This is what it's like.
Can
to
you
be
just
Muslim in
pause?
America.
I've noticed this, by the way, with Muslims in Israel. Like, they sit there and they go, can you believe, look at the streets here. Look at the streets in this country. Now, this is because it's the Muslim part of Tel Aviv or whatever, Jerusalem or wherever they are in Israel. We don't get the same kind of benefits that the Jews get in this country. You're in an Arab country. They're at war with Islam, an ideology, a religion, and you're pissy about that it's not nice enough in Israel. Israel has Muslims in the parliament, and they're sitting there going, I think the roads should be a lot better here in this Jewish country that's surrounded by a fence to keep out Muslims because Muslims keep attacking them. And you talk to Muslims all over the Middle East and they go, yeah, I'd way rather be under Jewish control or any other country's control than Muslim control because it's more dangerous. I've even heard Egyptians, Muslims saying, we're actually glad you pillaged all our artifacts because they'd be gone now if they were in our hands. I mean, we saw what ISIS does to Buddhist statues, although we're starting to develop these habits too where we eradicate history. But anyway, Muslims are better off anywhere but in Muslim countries. You want to see a mosque get destroyed? Go to Pakistan, where an imam farts during a sermon or looks the wrong way at somebody. It's gone. So the idea that this guy is in a country where he represents 2% of the population and people don't lick his feet and wash his toes with their hair like Jesus is just... I mean, imagine a white guy doing that. Imagine going to Japan and just going, can you believe this shit? It doesn't fit in our brains. Waving American flags in Japan. Fuck this. We're not speaking Japanese. You guys are a pain in the ass. We're wearing our shoes indoors. We hate your paper walls. Look how flimsy they are. Poof. All right, go ahead.
America.
Way to go. People tweeted me.
The negative stuff, however, was much, much louder.
Oh, no. A 14-year-old
I've
yelled
got
at
an
you on
entire
Twitter?
file folder of just death threats.
Death threats from 12-year-olds. Oh, yeah.
After
Muslims
about
don't know
10
anything
years of
about
being
death
Cable
threats.
News' favorite Muslim.
There's no such thing as a
I've come to the
fatwa.
realization that I don't think it's doing any good. Bigotry is not a result of ignorance, it's a result of fear.
Wrong.
And fear is
Stop.
impervious to...
Islamophobia is a rational disease. The only problem with the term phobia is it implies it's irrational. Islamophobia is the rational fear of Islam and the disproportionate number of Muslims who at least tolerate terrorism, who tolerate suicide bombing and think it is sometimes or often justified, okay? It's not prejudice, Reza. It's post-judice. And your frustration here is that your rhetoric is at war with reality and numbers keep kicking you in the ass. The facts are your enemy. Truth is your enemy. And it's hurting your Taqiyya Stampede campaign because facts speak louder than lies. But go ahead.
was watching people who were gay on television being, you know, normal. They're struggling with the same issues that you're struggling
What do
with.
you
They
think
are
we thought
human
of gays
beings.
before those shows? That they were
And
animals?
so for the last few years, I've decided that what I'm going to do is try to change people's minds through pop culture, through film and television.
Ah, you mean fiction.
Stories have the power to
Fiction.
break through the walls that
Of
separate
data.
us
Just
into
stop here, stop here. By the way, I wanted to go back a little bit. He says, we think this way, not because of data, but because we don't know any Muslims. This is a common thing in America, and maybe it's because I'm from Canada and we get out more. We travel more. Only, I think, 2/3 of Americans have passports. But they're a very parochial bunch, the Americans. And maybe they don't know a lot of different types of people. I've known Muslims my whole life. I've known Hasidic Jews my whole life. I am, again, it's post-Judas. I know that most Muslims are good people. Most of the Muslims I know that are cool people eat bacon and drink. In other words, they're not that Muslim. But as far as devout goes, globally, with 1 billion people, we're seeing a problem here. And if you want to talk about the canaries in the coal mine that is England, where Tommy Robinson was just run off the road, where you get arrested if you... Not only do they not arrest rapists who have prostitution rings where they fuck children, but if you were to question this or interrogate those guys or bother those guys, you go to jail. You get arrested. That's what Tommy Robinson is facing. He's in trouble because he wants to expose the rapists who attacked this woman because no one else is paying any attention to that case, and it's because she has a working-class accent and some tattoos. That's what's going on in Britain. I don't want that to arrive here. I like that we only have a lazy boy as far as my personal safety right now. That's not the way it is in Britain, and that's not the way it is in Germany. That's not the way it is in France. So the coal mines, the canaries in those coal mines are dead, as we say in Scotland. I don't want this canary to die. That's why we are so careful about your tiny number growing, because we've noticed that mo Muslims, mo problems. That they say, I'm Persian. I'm from Persia, not Iran. I'm from 1979 and before. I'm with the miniskirts and the women's in chemistry labs driving around and listening to rock and roll. That's called American. Your parents came here to be American. They don't want a Muslim country. We don't want a Muslim country. And after giving up on using data, because data kept slapping you in the face, remember he said genital mutilation is only an African thing? No, that's the only places we have the data from. We don't, Saudi Arabia doesn't really tell us how many female clitorises they cut off. And by the way, nice culture. You think women are too horny? If anything, they should be adding clits. I would like 2 on the front and 1 on the back. Cutting off clits. God, you're stupid. Genital mutilation is a problem all over the Middle East. We tend to only have data on Africa because, I don't know, we're able to bully them into telling us. And it's also a problem in Western countries that embrace Islam. We're now seeing it in Britain. We're going to start seeing it all over the Western world. And it is fucking disgusting. I don't like your culture, Reza. We're not stronger. Diversity is not stronger. Does not make us stronger. Multiculturalism is not a strength. Okay, we've got Chris Christie trying to say it's okay for you to marry a child. That's not enriching us. That's making us worse. You're taking us back to the Old Testament because Muslim culture is 500 years behind us. So when you enrich us, you just throw us in a time machine. Anyway, we'll hear the end, but you know what he's going to say.
Break through the walls that separate us into different ethnicities, different cultures, different nationalities.
No,
different
not races.
different
No,
religions,
cultures.
Because they hit us.
You're here
at the
because our
human
culture's
level.
better. Anyway, God, that guy's annoying. Hey, yo, what's up? You wouldn't believe who's bothering me. Talib Kweli won't leave me alone. He's that rapper from the 2000s with Mos Def. He was totally mad, lyrical, yo. I think he's a middle-class kid from Brooklyn who has academic parents. I have a theory about those kind of rappers. I think they feel kind of guilt for having, what's it called, survivor's guilt. If you grow up middle-class in Brooklyn, you get in rap, I think other guys go, you're not street enough, yo. So they get scientifical, lyrical, multi-syllable, rappy, and then I think it goes, oh, okay, you're like the intellectual rapper. Okay, you talk about Africa and stuff and racism. Okay, that's cool. We'll do the gangster stuff. Anyway, check out these tweets. What's this one now? Okay, so, oh yeah, the Irish slave. So the SPLC, one of the problems I notice with liberals in general is they don't know that, say, the Washington Post or the SPLC have become laughingstocks. Even the New York Times is full of shit now. They call President Trump Mr. Trump. That's in their style guides. But anyway, they still think pulling up something from the SPLC means anything. But one of the things he's pulling up here is Irish slaves. I'm all over the map with these tweets, so we're just plucking one from the middle. But he's saying that if you believe in Irish slaves, then you're a Nazi. It's a myth, you see. Now, I've talked about the white slavery thing quite a bit. There was obviously white slaves. There was probably more English than there were Irish, but there was German. Slavery, by the way, goes back way before blacks. The term is Slav, okay? Slave. But That's a whole other video. You look it up yourself. There was tons of white slaves in America. Some say even more than black slaves. They didn't pick cotton as much because they would die out in the sun. They tended to be indentured servants. They were stolen. And there's more slaves than there ever were today in Africa. And Talib, if you're Muslim, it was the Muslims who were doing the slave trading. Anyway, what's the next one? There's a lot of them here. Oh, this is a funny one. I have heard of this Nazi and Proud Boys, and they've begun attacking me. They attacked you because you threw out the line and said, everyone's a Nazi. Now, here's a funny thing about these two pictures, too. These prove that I'm a white supremacist, by the way. 10 things I hate about Jews. Now, this is something I've noticed with the left, where they're willfully ignorant of humor, and they ignore jokes on purpose. So you'll say something that has a layer of satire to it, and they go, you see, he's a Nazi. Now, clearly, when you look at this, look at my string vest and my wet bangs matted to my forehead. Does this look like a guy who is dead serious and wants you to know he hates Jews? And now, here's another crazy thing. Someone drew this picture, right? Proud Boy, and they drew a funny little hairdo. It looks like a 1950s Alfred E. Newman type guy. Some other random person puts Hitler next to it, and I think Talib's point here is that this must be racist because he has the same hair as Hitler. Like, what you're really seeing here is this crippling thirst for Nazis. So you ignore the string vest and you just focus on this clearly ironic line, and then you look at this and you go, that's Nazi hair! See? Meanwhile, by the way, Islam is right there going, hi, all the Nazi stuff you want. I got it all. I got the sexism. I got the homophobia. I got the racism. Check it out over here. And they go, no, thanks. I'd rather focus on a drawing of someone's hair. This one. Oh, yeah, this is just some random chick saying, are they still going with this? Wow. This has been going on for days and days and days. Eventually, I pieced out, but it still kept going after that, which makes me think that there's more to this than just wanting to expose a Nazi or debate him. This has to do with, I don't know, someone paying you? Or you're trying to generate record sales? I really don't understand it. Why was Talib Kweli fucking with an old Canadian dad? I think I used to cover this guy when I did Vice back in the day, yo. All right, what else do we got? I'm a nationalist who believes the West is the best. Correct. And McInnes got a ton of support from Nazis. Yes, this is Nazi shit. No. That's not how it works, dude. Yes, I'm a nationalist. There's nothing wrong with being a nationalist, and no one can explain, by the way, what's wrong with nationalism. I haven't heard a cohesive argument. The West is the best. How can you possibly argue with that? And then tons of support from Nazis? No, you called someone a Nazi and then a bunch of people mocked you because you're clearly hysterical about a German political party that hasn't been around for half a century. That doesn't mean you're right. If I call someone a witch and then someone sends me, ooh, scary pictures, it's not proof that the guy's a witch. They're making fun of you for being scared of witches, dummy. Talib Kweli called him a racist and a white boy. What's up, white boy? I think later on he calls me a bitch for not being a feminist. Yeah, that's the article on Twitch. Okay, keep going. We got too many here. This is going slower than I thought. It seemed a lot funnier when I put these together, but they are pedantic, are they not? All right, Andrew Breitbart, the racist fuckboy. Why is a cool black guy from Brooklyn using gay social justice warrior terms like fuckboy? It really doesn't sound... Fuckboy is like what a drag queen calls you when his special K is wearing off. It's not really conducive to rap. Rap, with the PMRC and all that stuff, when rap was big in the 80s and 90s, or sorry, the 80s, no one had a problem with it, but when it started to get raunchy in the 90s, censors were their worst enemies. And here they are picking up the mantle of the college dunce with all this fuckboy talk. It just is incongruous, don't you think? Anyway, keep going. And by the way, he says retard all the time. You gotta blow these up, John. I can't see anything here. I'm an old blind racist. I can't read nothing. Oh, this is weird. Okay, so go to the bottom here. This Andrew, racist piece of shit. So gay. But go to the top. This is proof that Andrew Breitbart is racist, okay? So go down to the interview. Bill Maher says, Oklahoma's out of ammo because they're afraid that Obama and his Negro army are going to come and get you. Very, what's the word, vitriolic attack there from Bill Maher. And Breitbart says, who's afraid? Where's this racism coming from? And then Maher goes, the racism is coming from Rush Limbaugh, but it's taking root in Oklahoma. They love their Oklahoma bombing. And Breitbart goes, whoa, whoa, I find that offensive because there's nothing in this country that's a worse accusation. He's saying it's a terrible thing to say about someone. It's where, in America, if you accuse somebody of racism, that person has to disprove that. Yes, which I'm forced to do. It's completely un-American to call him racism. Sick. I love when people transcribe an interview verbatim and then put sick in there to make you look stupid. You tell me what he has done that is racist. The man has been on the air for 21 years, 15 hours a week. That defense of Rush Limbaugh is proof that Andrew Breitbart is a racist fuckboy. Do you see what we're dealing with here? Meanwhile, poor Islam is trying. They're over there going, hey, we're everything bad. We got all the sexism and racism and homophobia you want. No, I want to go attack Ben Shapiro and dead Andrew Breitbart. All right, what's the next one? Blow this one up. Oh, yeah, this is, I'm a bitch because I got knocked the fuck out. It's weird when people put stuff that you've put out there and say, look what you put out there. Yeah, I know, I put it out there. I got in a ring with a giant MMA fighter named Meathead, and he knocked me out. Am I a pussy? How do you not be a pussy? You beat up MMA guys? Sorry, I have the same body as Grover. I am not good at knocking out professional fighters or anyone for that matter. I don't think I could beat up Ronda Rousey. I think Ann Coulter and I would be a good fight. These go on and on and on. I'm sorry to bore you. Writing for Breitbart proves you racist. Fact. See, this is how you sort of get out of the argument too. Like if someone calls you a Nazi, you go, "Is Trump a Nazi?" And they go, "Yes." And everyone voted for him then, I guess, is a Nazi. Well, yeah, they're white supremacists. And you go, okay, fine. Well, if there's 100 million of us, then yeah, fine. If you're casting that wide of a net, fine. If writing for Breitbart means you're racist, okay, I'm racist. Okay, next. By the way, they'll take that out of context and go, he even admits he's racist. Stop. Oh, this is a great one. This is one of my favorite ones. So someone points out that my wife's American Indian and my kids clearly, ergo, are not white. And then he goes, stop fetishizing his wife of color. Can you blow up all these? I got to be small on all these from now on. She ain't a I'm not racist trophy, moron. Racists love fucking people of color. What the fuck is going on? So a racist marries a goddamn negress. So he can have her in his house all day and go, yeah, take that, you black piece of shit. Like, you have to sex when you're married is only like 20 minutes, maybe twice a week. Well, let's be honest, more like 3 minutes twice a week at best. You still got to hang out with this person of color, sit there having coffee, just scowling. Oh, fucking look at her. Look at her eating her Cheerios. How can you believe that? How can you possibly believe that a racist guy fetishizes this violent sex and lives with this woman he hates? Oh, this one's crazy. They're getting better now. I'm starting to enjoy this. Why are you a Nazi? I mean, you talk about willful ignorance. So someone has photoshopped Hitler's face on a hipster, and he goes, this is proof that we're dealing with hipster Nazis. Like, what eyeballs don't see that as clearly a fucking joke? How can you see that and go, now that is fucked up. That's intense, man. You just proved that you're a Nazi. This is why the left is losing, by the way, because they have given up on comedy. So I think young people, they're for the first time in 3 generations, 18 to 25s are coming out as 15% conservative, whereas with previous generations it was like 3 to 5%, because you guys are humorless. You're blind to jokes. And I think Talib even said that. He goes, Nazi jokes aren't funny. Go tell a Jew that you think Nazi jokes are funny. You mean the people who invented Nazi jokes? Do you want to tell Mel Brooks not to make any more Nazi jokes? He'd be out of a career. Keep them big. I like seeing them like this. You think anti-fascists are the actual fascists because you protect fascists. Has it ever occurred to anyone that Antifa enjoys their wordplay? Everyone does this. Look at the word pro-choice. These dumb tricks. It's like calling something $4.99 instead of $5. I know it costs $5. I'm not counting that fucking penny. Antifa are not anti-fascist. They violently attack people whose talk they don't agree with. That's fascist. All right, keep going. No such thing as Nazi satire. You just said goodbye to a whole generation of fun people who want to have fun. By the way, George Orwell said this. He said, within every joke, it's a tiny revolution. So you are anti-revolution if you're anti-joke. You're anti-art. You're anti-America. You're anti-Western. You're a fucking bummer, dude. Keep going. By the way, I assume he smokes tons of pot, right? He's a rapper. How do you be so humorless if you're stoned all the time? What else is there to pot besides laughing? I mean, I guess it makes sex better, makes horror movies scarier, but how can you be humorless and high? What a waste. Oh, this one, I go, anyway, thanks, but bullshit rhetoric like yours is the reason I need to bring armed guards to every talk. Yes. You see, when you dehumanize us and call us Nazis, people go, well, I have to kill him. He's young Hitler. He's going to kill 6 million Jews, whatever. And so we have to have armed security, or I get pepper sprayed. I get fucking knives. I get death threats. We have Robert Spencer being poisoned. We get fucking people coming with brass knuckles and punching people in the lineup at Milo events. They are putting bags over our heads in Berkeley. They're throwing fucking They're throwing explosives. They're throwing stun grenades. They're bringing knives. I mean, they're smashing open our heads with bike locks because rhetoric like yours dehumanizes us. That's why someone poisoned Robert Spencer, because they thought they were poisoning an evil demon and not a human being. So I go, the reason I care about rhetoric like this is because it gets life-threatening. And next thing you know, they're threatening Cassandra Fairbanks' child. And then he goes, bitch ass needs security from my tweets. And then he's laughing so hard 6 times that tears are forming a pool at the base of his icon. And these farmers wonder why they get killed. Oh, this one was a doozy. I mean, the fucking carnage going on in South Africa right now. I honestly say this to people about the Rhodesian farmers. If you want to look it up, try to stay out of Google image and try to maybe Google it and go like this, because you're going to see brutal fucking massacres. The genocide that has been going on in South Africa, Rhodesia, Zimbabwe for the past 10 years is stunning. You know why they say they don't put it on the news because it's white people? No, I honestly think they don't put it on the news because it's too horrific. That's true of a lot of African stuff. They were just murdering bald men because they thought they had gold in their heads. I mean, in South Africa, there was a rumor that raping a baby cured AIDS, so babies were getting raped. I don't think they put it on the news because people are eating dinner when the news is on. And to trivialize their deaths, I mean, I did a Miles McInnes parody of it. They're fucking, right now in South Africa, they're tying old ladies to chairs and drilling them holes in their body till they bleed to death, just drilling them. Or how about raping a woman and murdering a guy's kids in front of him while he's tied up and then releasing him and not killing him? I mean, don't look up what the carnage going on in South Africa and what they do to the white farmers. The white farmers who are employing blacks and paying them, blacks who are now unemployed. That one stunned me. Sometimes you just go, all right, what else do we got? I'm getting annoyed by this. What's this? This is just a random tweet thrown in there. That's not from, that shouldn't be there. Kill that. That's a teenage boy trolling you. I think you know deep down this is good for your brand. The whole thing is a big hustle. Here is you defending Nazism. Whether teenage troll or not, your defense of it is disgusting, period, racist, period. No, I'm trying to tell you, dude, that those trolls are not real. I've noticed this with Reza Aslan, too. They'll talk about how horrible stuff is, and they'll pull up tweets from 13-year-olds. When I'm talking about a threat, I'm talking about an actual knife you can see with your own eyeballs. I mean, the terrorists, the Antifa terrorists who were in D.C. at the inauguration are facing 30 years of jail time for their terrorism. That's a real bona fide threat. These kids sending you cartoons are not, yes, I'm defending them. I'm defending joke cartoons meant to antagonize someone who's way too sensitive for his own good. All right, what's next, Talib? As you ignore the vast amount of straight racists and Nazis that defend you, cowardly racist bitch. I mean, these are getting tedious, right? What's the next one? Keep going. What's going on, Johnny? Are we out? Oh, this is one of my favorite ones. Are we in the top? I saved the best for last. Okay. This one is amazing. I said Proud Boys aren't racist, Proud Boys aren't racist. And then I start to go, my new game with these people is play it through. Like sometimes they'll say, you're a white supremacist organization, and then they'll concede that we have black members. And I go, okay, play it through. What do these black people do at our meetups? Just serve us drinks and cry? Do they sit in the corner? That's fascinating. That should be the cover of New York Magazine. Strange tribe of African Americans who go to abusive clubs to receive abuse. It's a strange masochistic fetish they have, and it's the weirdest thing we've ever reported on ever in the history of media. I mean, that should be the front page of the New York Times. Masochistic blacks join white power group. So that clearly isn't true, right? Scientists don't get confronted with this kind of bullshit and then go, well, I'm sticking with my hypothesis, even though it makes zero fucking sense. But I said to him, okay, explain this to me, Talib. This is back before when I was humoring him and before I gave up. I said, how can a multiracial organization, why would a multiracial organization want to hide its racism? Please provide an example of a multiracial organization trying to hide its racism. And then his response, because I thought that was a pretty good setup. It's impossible to even fathom. And then his response is, that you think multiculturalism is racism proves that you're a cowardly Nazi piece of shit. Could you be far? This is like playing tennis with someone and they just take the ball and turn around and whip it into the stands. You're not even in the same universe as my question. So that one was a doozy. Let's go to another doozy. Although having sex with your POC wife, that should have been in the winner pile. Okay, so I called him a retard, and he said that was ableist. And I go, you realize that's for purple-haired college girls, right? SJWs. And I go, no one uses that word. Like, I can't imagine anyone in Brooklyn in the hip-hop community smoking blunts on the tour bus, yo, and maybe spitballing some freestyle rhymes going, yo, that was mad ableist, yo. It just, what? Everyone would go, what? And he goes, purple-haired college girls, what's wrong with them? And this is my favorite. You don't stand for woman, boy. Bitch shit. So he's using a sexist insult like bitch to insult people who are sexist. If you're not a feminist, you're basically a fucking woman. The only thing worse than a sexist is a fucking bitch. Sexists are women. Sexists are bitches. That's like saying the only thing worse than a racist is a goddamn nigger. They're the worst. Of course, that'll be racist, me saying that word. Is because it's a great example of the left so desperate for Nazis that they ignore Islam, which is doing everything they hate right in front of their face, and they go scrounging through white America, privileged America, the Western world, trying to find examples of racism. They come up dry, so they bring up lunatics like Jeremy Christian or Dylan Roof. They keep bringing up the Oklahoma City bombing. And when that's not enough, they take a joke and they just go, that's not a joke. I'm going to pull that out of context and take it absolutely literally because I'm so desperate for Nazis because I love this narrative of America being white supremacist. Well, that lie is done. And I think the reason that it died is not just because it's untrue, but because it's profoundly boring and unfunny. Your side has become the church lady's side, and no one wants to hang out with a fucking church lady because no, it's not special.